Well, good morning and welcome to Christ Table. My name is Kevin Young. I have the privilege of serving here at Christ Table as lead clergy. So glad that you are here with us this morning as we are continuing on in our Game On study. If you'd like more information about Christ Table, so easy to get information about that. All you need to do is go to the URL that's right there, www.christtable.today. Excuse me. And then if you'd like more information about this study in particular, then you can visit the URL that's coming up right there at the bottom of your screen, go.christtable.today/game on. There you can download a PDF of all of the study materials for this study, daily questions, daily insights. We'll take you deeper into this study. If you'd like a printed copy of those, you can actually get a printed copy of those there as well. We have a youth and a family devotional that goes along with this study, as well as a printed copy of all of the days of this study. Yeah, it's available right there. You can get that online. It's the exact same thing that's in the online version. You can get in print. It comes in this box. It's filled with several other things that I won't divulge here, but you can find it out if you go online. A bag full of chess pieces in order to help you kind of navigate this study as well. Would love to get that to you, or if you just like to download the free materials, you can do that right there as well. Go.christtable.today/game on. Today we find ourselves on day 13 of the study. 6-week study because there are 6 different chess pieces, and each and every week we are looking at a different chess piece, the strategy, the personalities of these chess pieces, trying to kind of walk through how those might relate to life and help us navigate life as well. Today we find ourselves Matthew chapter 5 verses 14 through 16, and we will begin by just kind of reviewing a little bit where we've been the last couple of days. We're talking about the knight. The knight is, and I've said this, I think the last 2 days that we've talked about this, the knight is my favorite chess piece from childhood. This is always the one that I loved, both because it's the coolest looking chess piece, as well as it having the coolest movement pattern. And we've talked about that a little bit, how the movement pattern we've talked the last couple of days is unique, but also very advantageous. One of the things that we kind of tied that into is the way in which God moves is very unique and unusual as well, and how that can be both a good thing and sometimes how that might be a frustrating thing as well, that God moves in ways that are counterintuitive or counter to the ways that we might like or prefer God to move. So the knight moves in an uppercase L movement pattern, but depending on how you make that uppercase L and its movement pattern depends on where you can move on the board next. It doesn't have to move in that pattern that's shown right there on the left. It has to move in that pattern, the L, but it doesn't have to move in that spaces. Essentially, for instance, here, all of the possible spaces that it could move to in its next move are located in red there, and it is essentially a circle. And the thing that we've been saying over the last couple of days is that the knight works best in the center of the board, or maybe that's a new thing that we're kind of talking about here, and that because of its movement pattern, it has the greatest movement if it's moving from the center of the board. Most of the other pieces, it doesn't matter whether you're at the bottom of the board, the top of the board, the left side of the board, the right side of the board, the middle, or on the edges. Doesn't really matter as much, but it does matter to the knight and its movement pattern, because take a look at this. Here, if the knight is centrally located in the board, there are there are 8 potential places in which it could move from here. But if the knight is in the corner of a board, there are only 2 locations in which the knight could move to next. So where the knight is located on the board determines whether or not it is able to freely move to all of its potential places, or whether or not it is very limited in the ways and places in which it can move. So let's think about that maybe for just a second, right? That for a knight to have maximum influence or maximum impact, it needs to be in the center of all of the action. If the knight is on the fringes or on the margins or outside of the action of the board, then it has less power, it has less influence over the outcome of the game, And so it can be scary maybe to have your night in the middle of all of the action and out there in the midst of everything that's going on. You might miss something and lose the night. But it's also really doing you no work. I mean, no good work or much help being on the edges where it can't influence or impact the game in really any meaningful or helpful way. And that is, I think, a concept for us that might make sense in our own lives, that if we're not on the field playing, there's very little chance of us having much impact on the game. You know, I've had several kids that have been in sports over the years, and sometimes those kids, if they weren't comfortable in their own abilities or weren't comfortable in their understanding of the rules of the game or weren't comfortable because of fear of getting blindsided by somebody who's trying to tackle them, hung out on the fringes or the edges of the field where they didn't see any action, but that was kind of what they wanted, right? That was their strategy, because their strategy was to stay out of the action. But it also meant that they had no influence or impact over the game. Whether the game was won, they had nothing to do with that. And if the game was lost, they might have actually had a lot to do with that because they didn't actually get in the game. They didn't get on the field. And so I think that the Bible probably has a lot to say in encouraging us to recognize that for us to have any influence or impact in the world around us, we've got to actually be in the center of the action. We can't just always hang out on the margins and on the sidelines and expect for things to go in a direction that is maybe helpful to us or advantageous to us, or that we can say we had anything whatsoever to do with. So this background kind of gives us the background that we need in order to now jump into the text for today, Matthew chapter 5, verses 14, 15, and 16, where Jesus, speaking to his followers, says, "You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. So let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." A town built on a hill that was very brightly lit with flames was a place that could be seen by travelers looking for hope, looking for lodging overnight, people who were looking for food or water in ancient times, but also was a beacon for people who perhaps were robbers, who were vandals, who were traveling, marauding bands or groups of pirates, or people who were conquering could see this from far as well. And so it meant that, yes, you might be able to have impact or influence of this large city on a hill that is lit up, but that you also perhaps needed to be in a place where you could defend yourself, where you could take care of yourself. So it had this kind of dual thing where it's like, yes, you're now seen, yes, you're now visible, but you better be in a place or in a position where you can maintain your integrity despite that visibility. And Jesus says, you know what? Don't hide. Don't hide yourself. Don't hide who you are. I know it's very scary out there. You might be attacked. You might have people who would try to come and put out your light. You have, those kinds of people are going to come and try to misuse you or abuse you. And it might make you want to douse your light. It might make you want to hide that light under a bushel. No, Jesus says, don't do that. Let it shine. Let people see the good things about you. Let people see that you are a positive testimony of what a life well lived, a life dedicated to faith looks like. Let people see the goodness. Let people see the beauty of that. Let people experience that. Get out there in the middle of the chessboard where you can have the maximum influence and impact. I think there's a lot of beauty in the knight's example mirroring what our example is supposed to be. Because, spiritual impact happens through engagement, and you only engage people whenever you are out there in the middle of people rather than withdrawing from the world. Jesus is consistently encouraging his followers not to withdraw from the world or from culture. And today, so much of what we hear in church and religious circles is withdraw from the world, withdraw from culture, see the world and culture as an enemy to you. Don't participate in it. Be an outsider from it. And I understand the idea behind it, but Jesus and the Bible really won't have anything of that kind of living. It says, yes, you might protect yourself from being influenced by these things, but you're supposed to be salt. You're supposed to be light. You are supposed to be influencing. And the only way for you to influence, again, is to be out in the field in the middle of it. The only way for you to influence darkness is to be a light in the middle of that darkness. The only way for you to be useful as salt is to be in the middle of that savory dish. So you got to be in the middle of it. It's influence or be influenced. Don't avoid that. Get in the middle of it. It's why Jesus in John chapter 17, in the middle of his high priestly prayer, essentially states this line, in the world, not of the world. And you might have heard that over the years, especially if you grew up in religious contexts, as something that, you were supposed to distance yourself from the world, in the world, not of the world, but also not out of the world. You're placed here for a reason. It wasn't to play the sidelines. Be like the knight. Get out there in the middle of all of that action and do something. Right? Maximum effectiveness in the center of everything. Least effectiveness in the margins and on the edges. So one of the questions among several in today's study materials that you can get, online, go.christtable.today/gameon, is this question. And I'll leave you with this. Would love to see the answer or your perspective in the comments. Where might God be calling you to engage more actively rather than staying on the sidelines? I want you to take some time and really think about this. Maybe the first answer that comes to mind, or the first thing that you think of, is the thing. But maybe, and I think that I say this because this can be true for me, it can be difficult for me to really be self-aware enough to know which areas of my life I truly am on the sidelines, because it's uncomfortable thinking of myself sometimes of being on the sidelines. And so I justify it or minimize it, or don't perceive that my interaction is what it actually is, and that's inconsequential. I allow myself to be there on the sidelines rather than being in the middle, rather than being in the influence, in the middle of the action, where the most perhaps danger is of being sidelined unsuspectingly. But what are you doing? Just standing on the sidelines waiting to die? Waiting to get taken out by some piece? It's no way to live. It's no way to play the game of chess. Be strategic, but actually get in there and play it. It's no way to navigate life either. Not your physical life, but certainly not your spiritual life. All right, that's all the time we have for today. Looking forward to being back with you.